There's a strong chance you're wasting precious time asking yourself, should I save more now or should I invest more now? My issue with this is, what if you don't get this question right? It could literally cost you years of financial growth. So today I'm going to break down exactly where you need to focus your money first. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to balance saving and investing for long-term wealth without feeling like you're falling behind. This video is part of my saving series, and it's a step-by-step journey to help you save confidently so you could move on to just bigger and better things like financial goals, including investing, building wealth, and creating the life that you really want. So stay tuned for more videos that are going to be part of the saving series playlist. So let's talk about the differences between saving and investing. If I had to give you an analogy, I would say saving is like jogging on a regular basis. Meanwhile, investing is like CrossFit because there are really intense moments. You can jog and you can also do CrossFit, but the physical and mental demands they require are very different. Let me explain. When it comes to saving, that's short-term security. So that's your money being kept in liquid accounts like savings accounts, emergency funds, sinking funds, high yield savings accounts. This type of short-term security would allow you to transfer the funds and use a debit card or a credit card if you're disciplined with how to use credit. When it comes to savings, this money is at little to no risk. It has growth potential, but it's very limited because it's dependent upon interest rates at banks and money market funds. The idea is that this money can be used for emergencies, big purchases, or planned purchases. Investing, on the other hand, this is long-term growth we're talking about. This is where you're putting your money in different assets, stocks, real estate, retirement accounts, where you invest in stocks. And this will help you build your wealth over the long term. And I really want to emphasize long term. There is higher risk, obviously, but potential for much greater returns than you would with savings. And there's going to be some ups and downs because of that. The value of stocks in the real estate or any investments that you make in retirement accounts, they're going to go up and they're going to go down. But the idea is that if you're investing over the long term, you can recover from the downside. So your investment is used for wealth building, retirement, long-term financial freedom. That's what we're looking for. And to take it a step further with our analogy, I can find that if you can jog a certain amount, then you're better positioned for high intensity workouts like CrossFit. But if you have never jogged more than 2 laps on a track, I guarantee you CrossFit will destroy you. And if you happen to disagree, I'd love to hear in the comments below. So how much do you need to save before investing? Now, this tends to be the $1,000,000 question, literally and even figuratively. And if you want to be prepared for investing, you have to have some savings in place first. So, emergency fund. If you want to be prepared for investing, you have to have some savings in place first. Your emergency fund comes first. This is going to be your financial security system, like a seat belt or a deadbolt on your front door or a backup generator when the power goes out. The goal ultimately is going to be about 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high yield savings account. And in today's world, $1,000 isn't enough for an emergency fund, unfortunately. The average emergency, which would be a car repair or medical bill or even a home fix, is gonna easily be $1,500 to $2,000. So your new baseline amount should be at minimum $2,000 in savings before you even start investing. If you have some short-term expenses, something that's coming up within the next 5 years, so maybe down payment for a car or upcoming life event, investing that money could actually be kind of risky, so I would discourage it. If you need the money in less than 5 years, just keep it in a savings account or money market fund or high yield savings account. Now, if we want to talk about debt, if you have high interest debt, which is pretty much any type of credit card or unsecured debt, then this is where you're really going to have to take a closer look, because that is going to negate some of your returns if you are investing while carrying this debt. And we want to focus some of our energy, in fact, not some, but all of our energy in the right place. So if it's not mortgage debt, you really need to consider what the interest rate is and see how you can reduce that or eliminate it. Now that we've covered how much you need to save, let's talk about when it makes sense to finally shift that focus to investing. And if you're following this as part of our saving series, you're right on track, because We're walking through each financial milestone step by step. Let's look at after you have your emergency fund. Once you have a safety net, excess cash should go towards wealth building, not just sitting in savings. This should honestly be a no-brainer. You're ready, don't waste any time because you can't get that back. So when we talk about things like your employer 401k match or your employer plan, I want you to look at this differently because a lot of people say that your employer match is free money, but I actually see it differently. When you accepted your job offer and looked at the salary, that was just part of the deal. What most people don't realize is that your employer has already budgeted more money for you and it's just behind the scenes. That includes your health insurance, the cost of living adjustments, and yes, your 401k match. So it's not really a gift. It's money that's already set aside for you as far as their planning. But here's the catch. If you don't contribute enough to get the match, they keep that money. So no, it's not free money. It's your money. You're just choosing whether or not to claim it. And with that said, I always encourage people to just one-up their employer. And what I mean by that is if they match 4% of your contribution, you need to contribute at least 5%. If they match up to 5%, you need to be contributing at least 6% because nobody should be investing more in your future than you. This is something you have to take the driver's seat on. After you've done that, you want to shift to more of the long-term wealth building. So this is where we talk about the 401k, the IRAs, the Roth IRAs. Once you've handled some of that and made some consistent contributions, then you can start looking into things like brokerage accounts, real estate, side business investments. But what if your investing and your emergency fund isn't built? Well, this is kind of case by case, but the best way I can say it is just make sure you keep as much momentum going as possible. And this means if you're saving and putting money in your 401k, ask yourself, how much of that can I dedicate to my emergency fund so that I can be more comfortable with investing? Okay, that question is so important because nothing prepares you better for the ups and downs of investing than the ups and downs of investing. It's just like how I can't avoid the soreness of a workout at the gym. If you're staying in shape and challenging yourself, you're supposed to feel it. Now, some of the mistakes people make before investing without an emergency fund. Many people jump into the stock market or crypto without any financial cushion. And when an emergency hits, they pull from investments at the worst time. And that's where they lock in their losses. The stock market is already risky if you're buying individual stocks or trading options. But when you decide to invest without an emergency fund, now you're limiting the amount of time that you're allowing the market to work for you because there will be an unexpected bill, whether it's a car repair or a tax bill or a medical expense. If you invest and have to sell to cover an emergency, you are now shortening the amount of time the market has to grow your money. The emergency fund gives you a buffer so that you don't have to sell your investments. Another mistake is ignoring high interest debt. And I mentioned it before, if your credit card debt is 20% APR, but your investment gains average 8-10%, you're losing money overall. This is especially true if the amount you're borrowing is even close to the amount that you have invested. So don't pay more money to borrow than the money you are receiving for investing. Another issue is investing money that you're going to need soon. If you need the money in the next 1 to 5 years, don't invest it. Honestly, this is going to vary from person to person. So this is where it's best to work with a financial advisor and to look at your entire situation, specifically a fiduciary. A fiduciary is someone who is ethically required to help you with your investment decisions, and they are making sure that it's in your best interest and not simply just because they may get a commission or a fee on the sale. They are usually fee-based fiduciaries that you can find and you can look into them. Another mistake that beginners make is that they try to time the market. And this is where they're trying to buy low and sell high, but even professional investors struggle with this and they need a lot of tools in order to overcome it. Instead, just focus on consistent investing over time, like dollar cost averaging. Another issue would be not beating inflation. If you leave too much money in savings, inflation is going to eat it away. It's going to eat it up. If you're keeping excess cash in savings, it's just as risky as not investing at all. So don't think that sitting on the sidelines is helping. Now, the best approach, that's balancing your saving and investing. And you could be using the 50-30-20 rule, and it's a good starting point, but I want to emphasize that it's a starting point, because there is a strong chance that these percentages are off for you right now. And if it is, that's completely fine. This is a framework, so there's definitely room for some differences here. 50% of your money would be going to your income, so that's needs, housing, bills, food, savings, emergencies, because those are needs. 30% would be your wants in your fun money, lifestyle, clothing. And then the 20% is going to be your retirement, your debt payoff. It's other things for the future you. There's a specific psychology behind investing versus debt payoff. Investing creates dopamine. That's the feel-good hormone, because you want to see your money grow. In fact, everybody likes seeing their money grow. There's something about logging into your account and seeing your hard-earned money start to work for you. It just feels good. Paying off debt reduces cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and that's great, but it doesn't build wealth. If you had to pick, would you rather have more of the feel-good hormone, or would it be better for you to just have less stress? Feel good, less stress. I don't know. You let me know in the comments. And don't say both, because if we're being honest, there's still some stress with investing, obviously. At the end of the day, it's critical to balance both and not just one. So I know both is the best answer. Another aspect of the psychology of this is just automating your money. If you can set up automatic transfers for savings and investment accounts, that way your money is allocated before you even see it. You get in front of the emotion before you have it. For example, 20% of your paycheck automatically goes to a Roth IRA or brokerage account. Or maybe 15% of your paycheck goes directly to your 401k, and then 5% is transferred to your Roth IRA every 2 weeks when the money hits your bank account. I think we hear the concept of pay yourself first, and we hear it so many times, but it's easier said than done. And I think for me, automating money transfers was the best way for me to overcome that hesitation of paying myself first. Because personally, it's very easy for me to overthink purchases, hesitate to spend or use the same thing until it's fully spent and worn out before buying something new. I still find it very hard to treat myself. So I find that automating the paying myself first aspect was the best way, just the best way for me to get out of my own way. And I just encourage you to do the same. Now, here are some bonus tips that will help for just overall smart saving and investing, using high yield savings accounts for your cash reserves. And I don't know how long these are going to be around because it's due to interest rates, but having high yield savings will help combat inflation to some degree. Start investing small. Especially if you don't feel like you can afford it. Because with fractional shares and apps like Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard, they let you start with $5 to $10. Your 401k, if you haven't increased how much you've been putting towards it, maybe start with bumping it up 1%. It's enough to do something, but not enough to push you over the edge each pay period. So 1% shouldn't hurt you. Another thing you can do is just avoid the all or nothing trap. I'm talking about when people wait until they finally have extra money to invest. The key here is consistency, because whenever you get that lump sum, that bonus or money that just fell in your lap, investing is going to feel foreign, and we don't want that. We want you to be comfortable with the investment environment despite the weather. And remember, even small, consistent contributions grow just to a massive amount over time. For perspective, if you invested $100 per week for 40 years at a 10% return, that could grow to over $800,000. And that's with only you contributing $146,000 of your own money. What if you can do more than $100 a week? Why not hundreds of dollars? That snowball effect is what takes place over time, and it's best if you don't have to do the heavy lifting. That's exactly what happens here. You don't have to do all the heavy lifting if you do a little bit lifting in the beginning. I know personally I'd rather lift light and often than to not lift at all and then need to lift the heaviest amount possible when I'm old. So take a look at your finances today. Do you need to save more, or is it time to start investing? Are you still jogging, or should you shift to do some CrossFit? Let me know in the comments below where you're focusing your money right now. This video is just one part of my saving series, so if you're serious about taking control of your money, go check out the full playlist and follow along. Each video builds on the last one to just help you save smarter and unlock your next level of financial freedom. So stay tuned, and until next time, stay present.